other convictions for the murders of less known victims in the regional courts which have not been reported, but none have been reported for the many prominent victims in this period. Can you assist us in determining what is described as a political killing? Is there any criteria that one can use?
Well, I call them politically linked because it's the position occupied by the person, and the motive I don't know, because call them politically linked. I use the defining criteria which I've refined over the years. It was quite easy back in the 80s and 90s. You could see the conflict was between, or sometimes within the it's become difficult to actually say what a political killing is. It does often, though. So as a result, I define my criteria, which is, well, you have to occupy a position like a councillor or a senior member of a party, as in the branch executive, and senior municipal people, because often they're caught up in a web of corruption in municipalities. But I do go out of my way to say, actually, until the case comes to court and the evidence is led in court and assessed, you can then start saying, well, is the motive political, or was he having an affair with someone's wife, or has he got a taxi business or a security business? I mean, that's not political per se, but so, and I know this because over 20 years ago, I served on a small committee which was established by then Minister Twete, because the white farmers, does this sound familiar, were saying they were getting targeted for political racist reasons. And we had all the cooperation we needed from ministers, police. We went through, we talked to prosecutors, investigators, everything, victims, families, even prisoners in prison. We did everything we could, and there was a high solving rate, and we actually found no, we couldn't find a motive. Now, that's how difficult it is to say, well, you know, this is a motive. You need a court case to start with. So I say politically linked. My problem with the task team is I have never known how they define the cases. I have heard they've taken dockets that have got nothing, as far as I know, to do with politics. I have no idea what the base they're working on. So it's impossible to say X percentage of it. You have to start with the universe. You know, who are you describing? Where are the dockets? Even now, I'm battling to work it out because I don't know which dockets they took and which didn't. And the figures have tended to shift somewhat over the years.
Thank you. Now, can I refer you to your affidavit, your statement, paragraph 11. I want to just refer to your engagement, as it were, with former Minister Kele, and also the communication you had with then Provincial Commissioner Kwanazi.
Yeah. Okay. I had complained to the portfolio committee, everything should be on record with them about Bailey's involvement in operational matters, which I knew he was involved in. Everybody knew he was involved in. I mean, if you talk to people who've had experience, I mean, when I tried to find out when some relatives of a man who'd been arrested told me that their relatives were all getting abused by this task team to try and get them to make statements. These were people who contacted me and met with them. They told me about it. And I said, okay, well, who is heading the task team? They didn't know. They gave me a name that I phoned, and it was a policeman who said, well, he was in the task team and he wasn't anymore. And I said, well, who's running it? And he said, oh, Bailey's running. That I'm not surprised about because, you know, no, I've heard that. The other thing I know he's running it is that Magaka case, Denise Magaka, I know this from intelligence itself, but it was leaked to the media, not by me. That crime intelligence had supplied the money for the guns that attacked three people, ANC people in Kulu, and one died. It was Cindy Zimaganga. It was somehow leaked to the media. And it transpired, and I checked this out, it transpired that the head of intelligence at the time had given it to Debe, which is not his operation. Intelligence is supposed to give it to the National Commission, and he didn't do that. And the National Commissioner said public in the media he didn't know anything about it. I mean, I've never asked him about it, but I can believe it, because if you also, I don't know if it's included in this, but it's even on the internet, or it was. It's a Deputy Minister for Deputy National Commissioner. He talks about constantly interfering and trying to get this procured and that procured. She was investigating. She says in her protected disclosure, she said she was investigating corruption, and then Masamola was told to get rid of her, and she was. She was suspended. I think she's not back. So I mean, it was, and I complained to Parliament about it. I said he shouldn't be running this team himself, and the former late honourable chairperson said, no, of course he shouldn't be running itself. But said we talked to him about it, but of course nothing was done, because if I talk to people who've experienced it, one light, he was seen with Kumalo. I just want to investigate. Okay, now then what happened is in 2020, I have known to be so Zulu since he was a policeman. He did some research for me on stage. Yeah. And he, of course, got into big trouble. I said to him, he went to the Morani Commission to tell them what happened to Sindisa Magaka. I said to him, don't stick your neck out. And he did. No, he said, I've got to do it. And then the problem started. He got security threat assessments from the police. Even the public protector said he was to have protection, and he didn't get it. Clearly took it on review. He refused. He was Tabisa was almost killed, just narrowly missed being killed in 2019. And then the police started harassing him and maliciously charging him, and he's been in hiding most of the time. Right, in 2021, he called me because the political task team had come to him and said, oh, we're investigating this case you opened, which wasn't even a political case, it was an assault case. And then they'd use that as a pretext to seize him. Yes. Hey, bad boy.
Whatever you get, keep your hand on the switch game. Top your life and stand a chance of winning one of 20 prizes to the value of 3
What's in? What's in the how
Evidence, especially in the attempted murder, have been to court. And it's a political case if you try to shoot a political.
And I'm still waiting for you to teach me how to edit, how to think videos.
You just come through now. You watch me busy.
Oh, watching you busy, you move like lightning. Oh, wow.
No, I don't. I don't.
I've been watching you when you're doing the office. I was watching, I was sitting there in the corner there. And how the just, I don't remember even asking me, how do you do those, where does this panel of filtering the color come from?
I'll do another one. We'll do the VC one.
Wasn't around. He could be found, not even third
It's
place.
flying through this thing. No one already told it. He's used to it.
You want to finish fast.
the top of my head, reply. I remember sending him pictures of some armed security guards with.
Come in.
You better I think
Hey, Shapuzera.
people like to carry guns like this, and I don't know, but I think he indicated that he would investigate.
I'm going to Yamata.
In
Stem Hokul
2014,
Castells.
a couple of years back,
Hmm.
changed.
Yeah, I don't know who can go there. As we
People
can.
that are from police,
So
that he
the
was
office.
supposed to talk.
Marlega to show load of
They to talk to me.
climate change.
I don't know calling them.
Sure. Chifang.
How?
Chifang.
Follow to them to
reasons
the
why you
No, a load. He's just loading. Oh, no. Ah, for the bus. You make sure.
statement.
Yes. May I just go back though,
Hmm?
because directly informing that is 13.
Every day, every day.
side of a speech.
Yeah.
To me, which was part of
Oh,
Yeah, so
that's true.
All
All of Pancho, lots on travel, a lot of study there. Ah, well.
13.1, 13.2, 13.3, and 13.4.
Yeah, okay. There was the emotional and physical abuse, the use of tubing.
Mm,
I mean, a lot of police do it, but it's almost a norm from what everybody who encountered the task team spoke. Also, the emotional, psychological abuse, which they tended to use more with the policemen they targeted than the physical abuse, because maybe they were a bit more empowered. But the emotional abuse was extreme. I've listened to it. I've heard about having to get psychiatric.
mm.
It's very clearly spelled in information.
Hey.
Called Ronald Pillay, who
Philip.
refused to give
Yeah.
us evidence against himself.
Those to the lights.
First three study sent. And then he was actually years. He was for years senior road traffic inspector in the lower south coast. He reported the speaker, Wandelia Mkhize. And he was then targeted, and eventually he was charged with fairly minor charges of, when I say fairly minor compared with murder, charges of defeating the ends of justice. So he had a gun that was his deceased brother's, he didn't even know was in a suitcase. He was kept for 5.5 years without bail on those charges. They tried to poison him in prison, so he was obviously very unpopular. And we heard he was released in May this year on the section of the Criminal Procedure Act, which withdraws the charges for lack of evidence. 5.5 years without bail. That was an extreme case. Now, Ronald Pillay was a colleague in the road traffic department, and they'd come to him and said, "We want you to do this, sign a statement implicating him." And he said, "I won't do it. And he gave me an affidavit about how he was the prosecutor that I complained about had tried to do it. He made an affidavit, and he said they kept harassing him. They would come and search his house without a warrant. His house was even set on fire once. He doesn't know it was them, and then they caused him to lose his job by supplying false evidence. So he was persecuted psychologically rather than physically. The other one is almost a norm, it seems, and this has been told by virtually everyone I've interacted with. They just come in and search without a warrant. They don't produce an order when they take our phones. This was common. This was a common allegation. I mean, this is illegal. And I mean, the fact that I reported to Parliament the illegal seizure of a phone without a court order, and they were still allowed to carry on doing it. And that's what they did do. Okay, and the fabrication of evidence. I mean, this is a serious problem. I mean, there's a case now involving two policemen, a sergeant and a constable with clean records, in a station called Umkomaas, south of Durban. 3 years ago, they were on patrol one night.
Hey, check out the how they're doing.
AK-47s. You see, they were up. He thought they were on Muti and going to kill it. And
My name is Salmina Mokese.
excellence.
I'm a lecturer.
And they put the prisoner in. They're going to get an excellence award, but they get arrested. In fact, the way they described it was one of the Kumalas. There's lots of Kumalas in this team, lots of them. One of the Kumalas rocked up driving Kunazi's BMW, apparently. So Kunazi, instead of giving them an excellence award, was kind of colluding with the police who wanted to arrest them. Okay, they were arrested. They were charged initially. The only political killings that they could muster was the killing of a councillor in Margate, which is a good hour's drive from Umkomaas. And they were on duty that night. And there are OB entries, AVL entries, cell phone records to show they were in Umkomaas doing their job. That charge has never been withdrawn. They then manufactured another 3, which weren't even political. Okay. That they killed one night, apparently. They've got alibis for that. They've got alibis for that night. But the state drags its case out and on and on. They refused bail.
My name is Salmina Mokese. I'm a lecturer in
Transcript. The state finally finished its case 3 years later, wasting days and days of court time that they are paying for, their families are paying for. No evidence whatsoever produced to support the bail argument and let them out on bail. We're looking at that case now and how we can help them because they deliberately delayed the hearings again for another 6 months. I don't know why the lawyer didn't apply for withdrawal of the charges because the state, according to a relative of theirs, which is a senior policeman, the state had not produced any evidence to support the charges. So, I mean, these are the stories I was getting, and this fabrication of evidence is a common theme. I mean, like the Dlamini case that the Honourable Adams has been pursuing. And he said, I mean, even that somebody said, I got my information about Gok, I think it's to the Madlanga Commission from Adams. And I've been working with Tabiso Zulu since the 90s. That's where I knew about Magaka. Anyway, but Adam said to me when I finally did speak to him, which was quite recently, I'd only copied him some of the stuff to the committee. And he said to me, you know, I can't even sleep at night thinking of what happened to that poor man. This is Dlamini. Another one who was seconded to the task team, and one of the convictions they got was his work too. And he was investigating Magaka and some of the other convictions they got. And he's been sitting in prison for 5 years because, well, his story was there were a couple of cases he was doing, one involving a Ngoma case that they were unhappy about. But these are his words, and he must give evidence himself. He said to me when I managed to speak to him, he said, well, along comes Kumalo and says, I must arrest Sandile Gumedi. Sandile Gumedi is the mayor of Durban, and she's already facing charges for corruption. I've got to arrest her for killing her husband. He said, but I can't do that. I've got no evidence to arrest her for killing her husband. I can't arrest without evidence. And these are his words. So he says, Kumalo says to me, I don't care whether you've got evidence. He said, the minister wants her arrested. He wants it in the media. These are Dlamini's words to me. I can't, he must give it himself to Malaka Commission. But he was unpopular enough to be charged with defeating the ends of justice. And the policeman who refused to support it also got charged with defeating the ends of justice. They're still sitting in prison 5 years later. So you can see why I was up in arms. I'm hearing horror stories, human suffering, dreadful stuff.
But Dr. Das, are these stories that you're hearing, they anecdotal? But is there some independent source? How are these stories verified, if at all?
can only talk to people directly and corroborate. Like, for example, one of the cases I think was linked to, I spoke to people in the community who were all saying, no, they've arrested the wrong people. The two brothers who knew who the right killers were killed themselves because they went to the police for the information. And I've spoken to people in the community, including a man who was told me how he was tortured, tubed. Very scared, very scared. Some people are too scared. I've tried to verify everything. I obviously can't. I mean, how can I check whether they're guilty or not? I can't until the case goes to court. And they're dragging it out. They're dragging these cases out. Police, some of the police, like one of the relatives is a policeman who's verified everything that is real, you know. And other people who've also kind of experienced of the task team said, well, that's what they do, and this is what. Oh, in the case that Dlamini, the councillor that Dlamini had actually arrested, the charges were withdrawn. So, I mean, that's just concrete stuff when charges are withdrawn. I can't verify. I have said to all these people. I've seen stuff they've written because some of them have actually written stuff in to the Public Protector, Justice Department. So that's the best I could do to verify. I want them to talk themselves.
These court cases, do you monitor them? Are you able?
Yes, as far as I can, especially the Bagaka case. I've been monitoring that since the very beginning.
Honorable Nola. No, thanks, Chair. Chair, the witness has made a concession that there are many Kumalos in the police and stuff. So if you can plead with the witness to be specific in mentioning people's names. If the witness is referring to Mkwanas, there are numerous Mkwanas. If the witness is referring to Kumalo, there are many Kumalos. So the witness can she please be specific if referring to General Ndlandla Mkwanas, so it's on record, or General Tumisani Kumalo, so it's on record. Otherwise, we'll rush after people, wrong people, if this is our move. Thank you.
Do you want me?
Yeah, you may proceed.
So you heard that. I think you yourself said the many Kumalos. I think the Mkonazis thus far you referred to, that's General Mkonazi that you've written.
Yeah, I've only referred to one as far as I know. Apart from that, there is an investigator, Mkonazi, which should be in the who's no longer in the police. He's the one who was investigating the alleged interference in the arrest of a convicted drug dealer and trafficker by General Mkonazi. I did think I left a copy of that note there, and he was apparently, the investigator was also called Mkonazi, and he was no longer in the police. I think that's the only other Mkonazi that I personally have come across. So when I say it is definitely General Mkonazi, the person I spoke to after Tabisa's phone was seized was General Dumasani Kumalo. And the other Kumalos, it's quite difficult to know. I think it was a Captain Kumalo, but there's a sergeant one who arrested these Unkamas police. I've probably got it in my notes at home. Yeah.
But perhaps now that you've mentioned him, perhaps talk to us about Lieutenant General, I think, Dumasani Kumalo.
Okay.
He was the project leader of the
project leader. As far as I know, I've heard this from more than one source, and it may have even come up in Parliament because I had a very good friend of mine who's now deceased. It was called, we worked together from the early 90s. He'd also, I think, Philip Mshongo. Philip was an ANC cadre who then moved to COPE and then moved, I think, to the EFF. He was representing the EFF in the Portfolio Committee. And Philip told me that he had a call. He was very proactive, the late Philip Mshongo. And the police had contacted him from Operational Response in Pretoria because General Dumasani, no, he was Brigadier then. Brigadier Dumasani Kumalo was acting head of he said, acting head of ORS, and there was so much trouble in ORS. There was a lot of internal conflict. And he said things getting really nasty because we can't take General Brigadier Kumalo's leadership. It's toxic. I don't know what the actual complaint was, but Philip said the members were complaining about him. He said he called Advocate Björkman, who was then the chair of the committee, and he said they had a special meeting about it. Now, I don't know, that should be on record. Philip then told me, look, we decided to move him. We decided to move him because he wasn't the right person to head operational response. Although I'm told subsequently that he wasn't actually moved. Structurally, he was operational response, but project managing for the task team. Philip also said, well, and so other people have told me this since then, he was apparently operational response in the KwaZulu police. Some people say he was a Caprivi trainee, but I have never verified that. You know, it's easy to make allegations like that. But he did apparently, and more than one person says that, he was obviously well trained or trained by the KwaZulu police in guarding, because he was guarding the King's. Operator who's retired now said to me when he was integrated, did a bit of statistics and finance in crime intelligence, but he said he was never operational. So my third is that at that time one occasion, he was is correct when he gave evidence to Mdlala. When Clearly was suspended. Former minister, whatever you want to call him, Minister Clearly, was suspended when he was national commissioner. And he had to jump a few places. He was so everybody was somebody so anyway, yeah, then. I don't even know if he was a brigadier at that stage or later promoted. So I was told by imperial sources that his tenure in intelligence only lasted a few months because it was a financial scandal. And he was moved out, but the secretary was
each and every after
financial scandal.
when you make a booking, you must
Definitely a few months. He certainly didn't clean up time in crime intelligence. It was unclean enough. And then it got worse, I think, from what they tell me in the last 3 years. So that's all I know about General Kumalo, Dumisani Kumalo, that he had very little intelligence experience and was almost primarily operational response for all those years, apart from being a project manager for the task team, which should not involve investigations or intelligence.
According to your knowledge, does he have any detective experience?
No, nothing. I've never heard of any detective experience. I mean, I guess you get basic training of some sort. But look, to be fair, if he was trained in the SAP, the South African police, you see, you've got to remember that back in the early 90s when he would have trained, he may have trained in the South African police and moved to the KwaZulu police. Or he may have been trained, depending on when he joined the KwaZulu police was formed in 1987. The first commissioner was a notorious white security policeman known for his work with Askaris. Okay, he was the first commissioner in 1987. Now, whether or not Kumalo, now General Kumalo, was trained by the police then, I think he may have been trained by the SA police if it was before 1987, he may have been trained by the SA police and moved to the KwaZulu police because there was a lot of inducements to get members to move from the SA police to the KwaZulu police, and most of them did not want to. The incentives were quick promotions and all sorts of things. So I don't know at the training he had. That would have been because the one thing about with the black SAP, they had the same training as the white SAP, which was quite good in those days. It was just that they were treated completely differently and they didn't get promoted. Like, in the mid-90s, some of them were coming to me and they were still sergeants. And he said, I've been a sergeant for 20 years and that man was a general years ago, the white man that I trained with. So that was the way they discriminated. But as I said, the training was essentially pretty good for black police in SA police, yeah.
Could I ask what qualifications would you require to serve on the PKTT?
You would need to be, okay, this is the way the task teams work that I know of, even when they were established by, for specific purposes. That's the ones I had experience of in the 90s, working in the South Coast, Midlands, North Coast. At which stage, I should also mention, of course, because they do go back a long way, including with the former Minister Clearly, who was the ANC's person dealing with crime and policing before he became the MEC. So they would have known each other for a long time. And General Mkhwanazi himself was trained from the beginning with operational response. In those days, it was called the stability unit, but we all called it the instability unit. They're the ones that used to go in and raid the homes of the UDF or the ANC people and see if there were any weapons and move them. And then the vigilantes used to move in and attack them. And I think that I haven't checked back, I'm very familiar with Shoba Shabani. I also made a statement to the Shobha Commission, by the way. I mean, to the Commission on Police Conduct there, because I was I warned about Shobha. Okay. So they even went in, I think, and cleaned out Shobha before the vigilantes went in and massacred people. So they had a bad reputation, but they did probably good training in public order policing, it became afterwards. So, yeah, you asked me about, so I don't think, to answer your question, I don't think along the way that the only training General Khumalo might have had was basic detective training. So when it comes to task teams, there's a very clear structure. And this was I think there's a sheet of it somewhere from the 90s. You have a person of a senior rank. Usually in those days it was, well, it's a colonel now because they remilitarized, but it was the equivalent of what is now a lieutenant colonel. And then you would have a captain, and then you would have, say, constables. There was very clear, they were much smaller units, but there was a very clear reporting line from constables to captain to the commander, who would have to be a lieutenant colonel at least. So that's the way the task team works. They were short duration. They would deal with a problem for 2 years, say, and then they'd be disbanded. And they had successes. I mean, the one up the North Coast was stunning. They got high court convictions, and in those convictions, it showed that the people who were convicted were still getting helped by the police behind the scenes. They were working with people who, in Carter, in the latter 90s, to incite them to actually instruct, including at the home of a former minister, a former member of parliament called Begi Ntuli, whom I have known for many years, a trade unionist who's now late. He lost family members in these attacks, and the investigator who'd been with the Goldstone Commission, Vilagazi, was stunningly good. He got convictions for some of those killings in that area. So they were very successful operating with that structure. Now, you ask about the task team. I mean, apart from the first being a brigadier, the brigadier soon left. I said to people who had experience of it, I've had a lot of names of people. They come, they go. I mean, one of them was a constable brought down from Pretoria to investigate these policemen in Commerce, and they wondered why he'd been a constable for 20 years. And the lawyer asked him, and he said, "Oh, I'm in a bit of a contestation at the moment with the police." And a person in the police who checked the records found out, oh, no, he hadn't been promoted because he was actually, he had a criminal record. But he was promoted while he was in the trust team. I'm just giving that as an aside. Now, after the brigadier left, which was pretty early on, I said to them, but who are these people who are supervising dockets? You've got to have supervision of dockets by a senior police member. Oh, I think Flamini told me this because he had basically worked in the team after there was, and he was moved about the time the brigadier went. I think he said, well, I think what happened is, he said they've had a few lieutenant colonels come, but they go. And we've had a few captains come. Maybe they're doing it. There's been no, this is, I just want to explain, this is why I had a problem with this. There's no transparency. You can't evaluate because they don't get breakdowns of who these people are they say they've had successes with.
So, Dr. Das, so from paragraph 15 onwards on page 10, you discuss your request for the disbandment of the team, and you had initially complained to then minister that this is in 2024 to then Minister Nkunu, and you had also written to Parliament, and that the letter to, there was the letter of the 24th of October, which isn't part of the original bundle, but we have, Honorable Chair made copies available. And it is it's also at page 53 in volume 2 of the annexes. A call for the immediate disbandment of SAP's political killings task team.
This, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
And the letter also to the Minister of the 13th of November 2024, which is in volume 1 at page 34, MDH 6. So the one of may I refer to the first one on page 53 in volume 2, which is addressed to Minister Nkunu. Call for the immediate disbandment. Yeah. And in the you write in paragraph 1, this letter and its 3 appendices is to request that for reasons as set out fully below, you take urgent and appropriate action to deal with the abuses and gross wastage of personnel and financial resources by the irregularly constituted political killings task team. I request that you, 1, instruct the National Commissioner SAPS to immediately disband the irregularly constituted, unnecessary and wasteful political killings task team and send its investigators back to the detective units established provincially and nationally in terms of the SAPS legislation. The National Commissioner must immediately stop the deployment of General Nkumalo, who heads Crime Intelligence, CIS, to this task team, which he did not have the qualifications and experience to command in the first place. Why has he been allowed to occupy these positions for neither of which he has qualifications at the same time. And that was followed up with a November letter and then the directive 31 December, which he got a copy, which we've now copied to the Honourable Committee. The Minister's directive deals with three separate items. The first is the filling of posts in the Intelligence Division. The second one, ports of entry. And the third one, political killings task team. Now, the Minister Nkunu, when he gave evidence to the Honourable Committee, mentioned amongst others, he had about 5 or 6 other reasons, motive that informed his decision of 31 December. Your comment?
Well, I mean, I read very quickly through his the affidavit he made. I was particularly interested in what I could gather from the cases he mentioned, which are quite obscure still. But I think he had been, my recollection is that he had been through various procedures. I know there was a media report several months back that General Masamola had actually been told that we couldn't afford to, the country couldn't afford to keep this expensive unit going, and I think my role in this is to say it wasn't necessary because we had perfectly good provincial teams, which I have explained. I've given details to. And I had never in my life, in all the years I've kind of worked with police, we've often cooperated. I've put them in touch with people when they're investigating, including back in the 90s. And I have never in my life heard of a task team running around with members of National Intervention Unit. What the police do, if they have to go into an area they think might be dangerous, they sign for a rifle to take with them in case they come under attack. And here I was getting, I think the first one I heard that were national intervention was when they seized Tabiso Zulu's phones. And then I heard that regularly the National Intervention Unit is with them. Now, I can tell you, and this is one of my arguments, that at the moment we've got trucking mafias, we've got land and housing mafias invading land, which is interdicted by armed men, and there's not a sign. There's no sign of a national intervention unit or a public order unit. And they're running around with the task team staying in expensive hotels. I then was told that actually a member who was a captain and promoted to lieutenant colonel, who by the surname of Finn, who's named by people in the task team, is actually cooperating the unit with General Dumasani Khumalo. He's kind of one of the commanders. Now that means then that we have the only people with oversight of a detective team are the National Commissioner, the Provincial Commissioner, the seconded NIU person, and General Khumalo, who's also head of intelligence. Now, that means there's 4 people there who are operational response and not even detectives running a team. I mean, it's just crazy. Absolutely. I've never come across this before. So that was the story of, the it was all grossly irregular, plus my own experience of, as I said, the way they were running around. And I wasn't just told this by people who were accused, I was told it by families who'd seen them in court. And this year there was even a report, it's not in your bundle, I think, but after the disbandment, the national intervention was still in court for Dlamini's case, I think it was, and others. And they prevented family members from entering the court. I've got a whole lot of statements about it from them. So they were still running around. And that's why then after I sent the initial complaint, and I want to stress, I never thought the minister would act. I've never had ministers acting when I've asked them to do things before.
So just before we get there, Dr. Das, did Minister Munu respond, reply
No.
to your...
But the letters went through. He never responded. As far as I know, I never got even, but I did send them to his office and they didn't bounce back. So I was assuming that he had received them.
Now, while we talking about Minister Mkhunu, can you just reference from paragraph 24 on page 16 to 26 on page 17, any interactive relationship, contact with Minister Mkhunu?
Yeah. I was asked to do this and I want to do it because people are saying it was me who drove it and wrote the letter, which is nonsense. Let me just explain my history. When I was interacting with a lot of ANC people in the early 90s because they wanted to know what was happening, Professor Zulu and I were still producing reports. I've mentioned to you there were specific people, but Senzo Mkhunu was not one of them. There was Willis Mkhunu, who was a trade unionist, who became the premier of the province, but not Senzo Mkhunu, I think, at that stage. And the area he came from, he'd been under threat, I gathered from, I was working very closely with Roy Ainsley, who was up the North Coast a lot. And he was doing the area that Senzo Mkhunu was in, and he was under threat. But it wasn't as badly as attacked as the areas I was working, which had a lot of trade unionists in. And he seems to have been in another role. I didn't deal with him then, but I probably met him at some stage. I remember a conversation I had with him in the 2004 elections when he had asked me to supply him with what was happening, problems at polling stations, because in those days and it was very contested. That was the first election the ANC won in the province. And there was a lot of intimidation, were the police there? Were the police doing their jobs? I was phoning him and telling him, well, there's a problem at the station, that station. That was the conversation. He was quite grateful for it. He thanked me. And that's the only connection, the only conversation. I must have met him at some stage because I was always getting asked to do things like, opinions on traditional leadership and all sorts of things. And I must have met him. I probably met him when the ANC won the province. They had a huge gathering there in Paulus and I was at it. Shamila Patoy was at it. There were lots of people at it, and I probably met him then. And but I don't remember him specifically. But I had his phone number. I had his phone number in a book from years ago. I think a book from the 90s probably, or early 2000s. But when he was appointed minister, and I thought, well, I need to send him stuff now. I can't send it clearly because clearly was the one that was causing the problems. And I was writing to Parliament about it. And the president, I might have even written to the president at some stage about the problems, especially about Thabiso Zulu, because, of course, clearly wouldn't give him protection. Anyway, but I then phoned somebody in the ANC and said, have you got Senzo Mkhunu's number? And he said, well, here it is. And I found out it was the same number I had in my notebook for many years ago. Okay. So I sent him a text message. And it might have even been a WhatsApp. I can't remember. And but I noticed that with his WhatsApps, he does turn on disappearing messages, so I can't remember what I said. But I sent him a message and I said, please, could you give me the number of your PA? I would like to send you copies of letters to the police. And he sent the number of his PA. I think she was called him Tembu. That was the only contact I had with him before I wrote the letters. And then after I wrote the letters, I had no contact with him until a month ago. What is it now? End of November, about a month ago, maybe a bit more. I got a call from one of the really good police that I've been working with for a few years. He's based nationally. And he has lots of information. He was in the police for a long time. He gets it. I've noticed a lot of these police get their colleagues' information. He knows a lot. He said, I really need to get hold of Minister Mqunu. Can you let me know how to get hold of him? I said, well, I don't want to, I never give people's telephone numbers without their permission. He said, it's really urgent. He needs to know this. Okay, so I then phone Mqunu. This is about a month ago or more. The line is bad. I'm not hearing him too well. I say, look, I have a policeman who wants to give you information. How should he do it? And he sent me the name in a message. He sent me the name of somebody that I could contact to give the information to or put him in touch with this policeman. I did phone this. No, I contacted this person and I gave him the information, which he said he would pass to the minister. Now, I didn't know the man that I interacted with. So what I did was, to be on the safe side, I sent the information to Advocate Picoli because I knew he wasn't, I presumed he wasn't anymore in the office of the minister because there was a new minister by then. But I thought, well, at least he's a lawyer. He was a lawyer for Mqunu, and then he would make sure he got hold of this police member. Anyway, I then heard from the police member that everything had worked out and he provided the information and he thought it might have been followed. But that was out of my hands. I was just the messenger in that case. And I could assure my policeman contact was actually quite chuffed. He said, no, they've taken my evidence and I think they're following it up. Anyway.
You can't mention the person's name.
No, I certainly can't. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. Look, I can't answer a question like this, and I'll tell you why. I work with a very strict code of ethics. You know, there's a whole history in social science, including under apartheid. The social scientists are used by governments for spying purposes. It was notorious, Appalachian Camelot in America. And as a result of that, the American anthropologists adopted a very strict code of conduct. Had from him. And he asked me if I could provide him with a list of politically linked killings. He wanted it for a certain period. He said he wanted to check stuff he'd been given. I said, no, fine, you can have it. Those are not confidential. I mean, I'll give them to the media if they want them, you know. It's just a work in progress of what I think might be politically linked, which is the only way I can do it. And I mean, I've always said too, some of these I only hear about in the media, and some of them I've told by people who want to report them to me and they don't get in the media. So they're very incomplete.
When did you hear for the first time or know about the minister's decision or Minister Mkunu's decision?
It was on the 2nd of January. It was circulated in a policing WhatsApp group. There's a guy who was, and he may still be in intelligence, who runs a kind of network among police members. Now, I mean, I want to make it quite clear with this. I don't know who his sources are, but they're obviously some of them that know what's going on, because what he's passed on is stuff I know independently. And sometimes they pass on official circulars, like there's the huge budget shortage. They'll pass on. There was a huge budget shortage early this year, and it coincided with there being no money for petrol to take exhibits. There was no money for food for prisoners at some of the stations, for toilet rolls. There was no money for stationery more recently. And police among themselves were saying, oh, I suppose it's going to the political killings team. Anyway, so it was this group which was passing on, but also other police. For example, there's a couple of retired police who send me stuff because they're still hearing from colleagues, some of them quite senior, that I worked with years ago, and I know they're okay. So it's different types of, but the letter came to me through this WhatsApp group, which was sharing it with everybody at that stage. 2nd of January it was. I checked back. I was amazed. I was astonished.
Honorable Skosana, I saw your hand was up.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm a bit concerned. You know, the witness says to us that she can't name people, you know, and I would say normally that's News 24. Some of the journalists are doing exactly what she's doing here. Some of the names are named here. There's names which he named here as well. Now, I'm not sure if the witness is protecting, because he made a guarantee to those ones who gave him information. But to some of us, it's like we are gossiping here. For me, honestly speaking, it's like we are gossiping. We're going to go out of here not knowing who are we talking about here. And for me, it's disappointing, Chair. That our witness she's not prepared. And she's making very clear to us that she's not going to tell us the names. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Matthews. Okay, Honorable Shongwe.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think Ukok Mary should either refrain from giving us information without names, because nameless information cannot assist us anyhow. Where are we going to go with that information to? Who are we going to confront with that information? So maybe for her sake, she can just put the nameless information on the side and give us information with names if she's not going to give us names. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Ngola.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I've noticed that in the evidence of the witness before us is largely reliant to secondary or third sources. So it's largely on information that which the witness has received from someone or some people or this and that. So it is worrying, Chair, that the witness is not willing to reveal the sources, because how do we then put value to the evidence that is accused before us, and how do we then verify if that which has been testified before us is actually true or false? So it gets worried when the witness is refusing to reveal from whom did the witness get that kind of information. You know, Chair, we have long discussed the issue of names since the first witness. And we will implore with the witness to share with us as much information as she can, because if she does, it means therefore, as Skosana says, we're busy here gossiping. Was the statement of the witness is largely reliant on secondary sources. Thank you.
May I respond? I asked a question, of course, about my contact with Mpunu, and I had to explain how it happened. I cannot reveal the source of somebody who might get killed for telling me. I mean, this is an ethical problem. I have to give people my word that I will not reveal it. When it comes, most of what I've told you, I've heard directly from people about the abuses. The prisoners themselves have managed to send emails from prison. Sometimes that you can talk to them on the phone. I've spoken to people there. This is first-hand information. All the names I'm mentioning are already on record. Now, if, for example, the General Mkunazi or General Kumalo come along and talk about, well, this is what we're doing, they're getting that information from informants, perhaps. They're not telling you the informants' names, the informants would be killed. It's the way I've been doing this. It was part of my training as a social worker. I had to take an oath of confidentiality when I was still a student. I've worked with this for years that I do not. I mean, people know they can trust me. So most of the evidence is people that are already, I'm talking about people that are already named in the media, people who've given evidence. The only names I'm with, I got that letter. You asked how I got the letter. I got it, and it's a letter that we all know exists. I didn't manufacture that letter. And I have made a point elsewhere in this affidavit, only because I was specifically asked to comment with intelligence. Not only does the information, some of these allegations I'm making it very clear. Because I've seen reports in the media, stunning revelations that these are not revelations, they're allegations until they're examined. And these people, a lot of people are just dying to give their first-hand evidence to the Malanga Commission. So it's for secrecy in giving evidence.
Honorable James will be followed by Honorable Nomvalo and then Honorable Matthijs in that order. I think they are still not satisfied, Prof. Doctor, on the responses that you are giving.
This is not a storytelling environment. This is not a history class taking us back to the 1980s. Our communities are under siege. Our children are being fed drugs. We are here to get to the truth. Has long left this room and left this country. Long time ago. It's too late for that now. We need names. Anyone that comes here today, we don't know you. You said earlier on, Professor, my people trust me. I don't know you. I don't trust anyone. So can we have names here today? And when you get asked a question, Chair, I find that the witness sometimes will get asked a simple question. What did you learn of the letter? And we must hear about groups where stationery and fuels complaints are being received. Please, can we stick to the question? Can we give a frank, honest answer? Can we move on and can we get names? We've been listening to this all morning and we've been patient with the witness, but I think time is moving. We don't have a lot of time. Can we please get to the bottom of this now?
Not before. Honorable James. Honorable James. What is it that you, what is the, let's be specific so that we are able to help the meeting to move forward.
Okay, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Witness was asked, how did she learn the letter? She answered, she said, via a WhatsApp group, a police WhatsApp group, and members have also been complaining about fuel and about petrol and all of that stuff. The entire morning, whenever she speaks and she speaks about her sources, she doesn't reference the name. It's just, she's unable to verify. When she speaks about crime intelligence, leader and head of crime intelligence, there's provincial, there's national. She's not specific with names I've picked up. So there's a lot of inconsistencies in her statement. And I think out of respect and sort of, at a lot of things, so you don't want to be too hard, but it's been going on the entire morning. And there's a lot being said here where I can see we're being patient, the evidence leaders being patient with her, but she's not getting to the point, and we are getting derailed.
Did you note the question?
I did indeed. Well, I wouldn't have come here if I'd known that I couldn't withhold people's names for ethical reasons, but they might be.
Dr. Haas, did you note the question?
I heard the question about needing to know the name. Indeed, I did. Yeah.
Note that question. We're coming later.
May I explain?
Honorable Nomvalo.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I think the first thing that we need to, as a basic necessity that we need to protect in this house is the decorum. That is number one. And members have an opportunity to make inputs during the course of her testimony. She must wait for the chair after we've spoken, for the chair to give a directive. You don't budge here, Coco. Wait for the guidance of the chairperson, and thereafter you come in, because here we are engaging so that ultimately the chair would give a direction based on the engagements that we have tendered here in a meeting. Secondly, people who have been coming to this committee, including people who are in the higher echelons of the state, have been mentioning names of serious people occupy serious positions. So we don't understand this story that we are being told here, because it means we are subjected to hearsay. And hearsay is evidence whose credibility relies on another person other than the person who's giving testimony. So it means here you are giving us information whose credibility relies on another person. And this is a fact-finding mission. So if you come with a cold and a silent evidence, how is it going to help us as this committee? Because you give us evidence, we analyze, we dissect, and if there are names in it, we take it further by inviting those people whom you have mentioned in your testimony. So really, Chair, we can't allow to be subjected to gossips. We have no time for gossiping here. We want to deal with real evidence. She must tender real evidence. And if she has nothing to say, she must keep quiet. Thank you very much.
Honorable Matthijs.
Thank you, Chair. We asked Professor Mary to be here based on the testimony of the minister. And most of his statement, he submitted the whole report, so her complaint letter. So she's here because a minister told us that one of his decisions on making, or his main decision on why the PKTT was disbanded, was because of a complaint that was sent by Professor Mary. So I think that is one of the main reasons that we must have in the fore of our heads on why Professor Mary is here before us. The second issue, Prof, I think you have to also appreciate there's a difference between anthropology, ethics, and also what we are doing here. It's justice. So while we understand, you'd rather not tell us a story if we are not going to have names that are going to be attached. And you can't talk while I'm talking. So let's just take a chill pill a little bit. And it's fine if you don't want to give names. We do understand we are in a very hostile environment and people are being killed. We'd rather not hear the story because it makes us difficult for us to do our jobs as members of parliament. And you can't also roll your eyes while we are talking. We need or maybe we must be told, how do we process information on so and so said this, there's someone lying in prison, we can't see, tell names. How do we process it? Maybe that's something that we can do, or you need to tell us, because we are here, we need facts, we need to process information. As my colleague said, there are witnesses that we need to come. We'd rather not hear the story if we are not able to verify that information, because as members of parliament, we are here to execute justice, we are here to do an inquiry. So we need that. If you cannot tell us, give us a name, don't tell us the story. And I'm asking that we do that. And maybe we should also just just try to wrap up. And I mean, I do appreciate that people can be killed and be going through a very hostile time, but we also can't just listen to stories and there's no way of us being able to verify that information. Thank you.
Honorable Souls.
Chair, I would just urge us as a committee to maintain equal and fair treatment to all witnesses. The rule of reference doesn't say if you don't give names, you must not tell the story. It gives an option to share a name. You can share it in an enclosed setting. So let's treat all witnesses the same. If may I finish? So what I'm saying, Chair, is
Honorable Souls, with due respect, let's take the point of order. I will come back to you.
Thank you, Chair. On a point of order, Honorable Souls always does this. So now he's trying to say that we are treating witnesses unfairly. No one said that the witness cannot do in camera. So why doesn't he just come here and say, if the witness cannot say names, she must say it in camera. It's simple like that. Don't come here and always undermine us. And it's so unnecessary. And you hold us back here in the committee because you are unnecessary, Honorable Souls. Just say, let the minister, let the witness do it in camera. There's no problem. Don't throw shade at us and say we're treating witnesses it's unnecessary. You are always doing this in the committee and you hold us back as a committee of trying to be progressive. Thank you, Chair.
I will rule on that later. May you conclude your point, Honorable Souls.
Thank you, Chair. I was merely responding to what was stated. The statement that was made was, if you're not going to give names, then don't tell the story. I'm saying we shouldn't do that. We should say, here's the options. We require names. You have the option. If you want to protect your sources, you can, in terms of our terms of reference, say it in an enclosed manner in camera. And then the other names that you can state publicly, you can state it here. That's all I'm saying, Chair. Let us state it in that way. Let's not tell witnesses, if you don't want to say names, then don't tell us the story. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, let me do this, honorable members. First of all, let me address you as honorable members. And then the next will be to talk to Professor Haas. Honorable Souls, you would remember that in the last proceedings, the second last proceedings, when we listened to Toy, we had a similar arrangement where we agreed that that were to be mentioned. We will arrange an in-camera session where where that information will be provided to the committee. And you are very right when you say we must be consistent. And secondly, I want to request Honorable Matthews to attack the facts and not the person. If there is something that Honorable Souls says let's address ourselves to the facts that he present or the view that he propagates than to attack him as a person. Because once you say this is what he always does, I think it's ad hominem. You are now, you know, there is this, there was one coach who had a philosophy in football that if you can't dispossess the opponent, you must make sure that there is no procession. The ball must not move forward, and the opponent must also not succeed to move forward. So you must destroy both. So I think I will not agree with the point of order that you have raised, Honorable Mathis. And then Dr. Haas, when I listen to these members and when I look at you, I can see that you are a citizen of an advanced age. And these members are saying to you that they want to respect you as a senior citizen in this country. And there is no there is no intention on their part to be seen disrespecting you or harassing you in recognition of your social status in society and their socialization from where they come from. They come from communities where they have been taught to respect elders. And it will be an ugly spectacle before the eyes of the people of South Africa. You were to be, or all of us here were to be seen on television with a senior citizen like yourself. And the message that may go out there is that those young members of parliament are uncultured. They don't know how to conduct themselves towards senior citizens of this country. And there may even be an association or any interest group or any citizen acting on behalf of the interest of the elderly. There's another one now. Who may end up writing to us and say, you invited Dr. Haas to Parliament, but we don't think that the manner in which you treated her accords a citizen of that social status. So, innocent of all that. And we also want to very much admire you for your academic accomplishments. The least we request from you is to go back to the oath that we administered this morning to say, and very respectfully. So if there is any question that is put to you, try your utmost best to respond to it satisfactorily. And that is why sometimes if you observe sitting where I'm sitting, I always check with the members if they are satisfied after asking a question or a follow-up. So where it may be difficult for you to mention a name, you can say, Chairperson, let me, and especially when the day is still so young like this, because if we need to have in-camera proceedings, we must make an application because Parliament is for the people. You don't just decide now and say, after this meeting, we will have a meeting in camera. If there are names, something that you may have to do upfront and say, in my statement, there is some confidential information that I would gladly like to share with you. It may not be possible for me to publicly say it in the following paragraphs. So, at the end of this proceedings, Chair, you can please favor me with at least 5 or 10 minutes, and I can disclose those details to you. Yeah, I think I have tried to say it in a manner that that brokers peace, in a manner that helps these proceedings to move forward. I'm always saying that when we conduct ourselves, we must not be worried about the technicalities of our arguments and our presentations. What the people of South Africa want to see is the wisdom behind our actions and the statements that we make. May you please respond to questions that the honorable members have asked.
Certainly. And there's very few names I haven't mentioned. I mean, when they're names of police, I can't mention them because they will be persecuted and lose their jobs. They may lose their lives. Let me explain. And it's one of the reasons why I am outraged that we should have a team that focus on a few dozen people that may or may not have been killed for political reasons. I sit in a province, myself, have found myself under surveillance. Have just had to debug my phone without a court order. The phone, my calls were all getting diverted. I have to watch every move I make because I've made a lot of enemies. This is me. And I don't care about my age. I mean, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Mr. Honourable Chair. It's very nice of you. I'm used to robust debates. I really don't mind. But I also need to explain, I see dreadful stuff all the time, not just for politicians. I see people dying and the police doing nothing. And yet we're spending this money on this team. I think it's outrageous, quite frankly, when ordinary people can't get justice, they want closure, they don't get it. I'm speaking here for poor people. You don't even hear about them being killed. They're killed all the time in rural areas. They're trying to defend their land, for example. No one's paying attention or doing anything special for them. Why are we doing something special for politicians? Okay, I've had my say about that. It's in my affidavit that this is one of the reasons I think, why on earth should we now focus on politics? There's relatively few people whose names I did not mention. I didn't mention the name of the person I passed the information to, the policeman, because I can't do it without checking if that's okay. But there's another reason here. I mean, it doesn't interfere much with all these people I'm talking about. I mean, I've spoken to them personally. And they also want to go to the Madlanga Commission. They want to go and tell their stories to the Madlanga. This brings me, I was contacted by Parliament. When the Madlanga Commission was set up, they reached out to me. The Commission reached out. I was reading that email. They have sent a great deal of information to the Commission. The Commission will contact me through its investigators when they're finished with the process in place now, with Madlanga, whatever else. They have a team headed by a forensic person. Those are the people that will do the investigations. What Parliament is doing. As I said, I've been trying to ask Parliament this for years to follow up on the complaints about policing and about even the task team. So I appreciate this move. I appreciate your asking me, but if you had said to me, we're going to insist, you must remember, I mean, even I know, I'm not a lawyer, but even I know that you have the right to remain silent in court, even if you're an accused, and I assume I'm not being accused. This is built into me. It's required by an international association of human rights defenders that I'm affiliated with, Frontline Defenders. You take every step to protect anyone who's vulnerable. Give me information that might lose their jobs or their lives. I'm not giving a name of vulnerable. So I would just have to say thank you very much, but I cannot carry on, because don't forget that at this stage we have the Malonga Commission with specialist investigators. They can check out whether what I'm saying, they can talk to people firsthand. And as I've said to you, people are dying to talk to the Malonga Commission when they get as far as looking at the task team. So, as I said, I would rather here because I was invited and I thought it was the right thing to do. Sit to this question and say the name of the person who wanted to contact Mklunu, because I was asked to give any information I had, which I have done truthfully, about my contact with Mklunu, with Cedric Ngabindi, with Sabia, and with, I was asked specifically Parliament to give this information, and with Advocate Pakoli. And that's the only reason I've done it. I was trying to please Parliament by giving them the information you want. And honestly, it's everybody. That you are trying to deal with this, and I don't want to diminish my support and my pleasure that you have taken this initiative. But I cannot give names, and they're not relative, because what I'm saying here is that it's not just, in this case, it was one policeman that I must protect. In other cases, these are different people who said things to me themselves. It's not just whatever's in WhatsApp. That's my clarification, and I just want to make it perfectly clear. With the investigations by the Malonga Commission, reveal some of the information now. I mean, I haven't told you about what I've said to the Inspector General of Intelligence, which supports some of the allegations against people who've been charged. So, I mean, there's also that. You can't let information out in the public while it's still got to be investigated by people who are trained to investigate, like the people I'm told are with the Malonga Commission. Sorry. I hope everybody will, if you don't like what I'm saying because I'm not giving you all the names, then I'm afraid I just can't carry on. I'm sorry about it. I mean, even in court, you have the right to remain silent. I'm doing it only for ethical reasons. I live in a very violent province. I hardly move myself because I could. So I have to take every step to protect people.
Yeah, no, very respectfully. Let me chat with you. What are the names that you are willing to give and names that you're not willing to give?
I'm only giving names that are on public record. I mean, the people I'm talking about, they're taxpayers, they're police, they're prosecutors. Information, it's all in letters. The only information I'm not prepared to give, and I'm quite honest to say, and I've said it because I was specifically asked about intelligence. It's all allegations. Some cases firsthand, not from whatever comes at WhatsApp. I've heard them firsthand from people I know, but who have given it to me because they know I won't reveal their information. I mean, you're not in a position, I mean, this has got to be investigated because they're allegations. So there are very few names I can't. I mean, like this policeman, I could not repeat his name, the one that said he had the information. He would be at risk. So it's like there's a lot of names in there that I'm not revealing. I'm saying I've spoken to people, all these people I wrote about in the cases, I've spoken to them personally. I mean, I followed up on my first letter. I spoke to the two lawyers in Cape Town. Their approaches were also in the minister's affidavit. To the policemen and their lawyers. I've spoken to
Listen to the next question. Are you, because your first answer is that there are names that you can reveal because these people are public office bearers. You can always reveal those names.
Yes.
And are there names that you will be prepared to reveal in camera?
Because they're still subject to the but longer commission inquiry, and they have investigators, specialized investigators. This is what I tried to get done.
But the thing is,
I just want them to get into the hands of the right police, the right investigators, the right prosecutors. I'm not in a position to follow up. I say they're allegations.
So where you base your evidence, or where you have made statements in your written submission to us on the information that you got from the sources that you are not prepared to mention.
Yeah, no, I'm made of them. Sorry.
Is it your submission that the committee must not consider that information because it's not substantiated? Because one, you say that even if we arrange in camera session, you will still not disclose the names. Or you may decide to exercise your right to silence. So now, what we want to know from you is, you have deposed a statement here with us. Let's say there is a paragraph where you depose evidence that is based on the information you got from Soviet. Then you say, no, I cannot give you the name of Soviet. How does the committee proceed with such evidence? Because if the committee may want to invite Soviet here to come as a witness to come and corroborate the evidence that you have provided here. So it means that evidence must fall off because it's unsubstantiated. Is that how we must understand that?
Can I just explain here? Most of what I'm saying is firsthand to me. It's hearsay to you. It's all hearsay to you. Speaking to policemen, speaking to people who told me about torture, speaking to people who talked about the task team, letter after letter to the DPP. It's all on record stuff.
Yes, but what we are saying here, we are probing allegations.
And that time, how old am I?
And when you are appearing before us, remember, you are appearing before us as a key witness. In fact, if we were to speak in terms of motions, if we were to speak in terms of motions, we were going to say that you are a trigger. Because everybody who came here before us, starting with General Mpanas, the minister himself, and former Minister Tele, all of them say there is this letter which was written by Dr. Haas. And when you read this letter that is written by yourself, you say on paragraph 1.1 that I request you that you instruct the National Commissioner of the South African Police Services to immediately disband the irregularly constituted, unnecessary and wasteful political killings task team and send its investigators back to the detective units established provincially and nationally in terms of SAPS legislation. And this is the letter that you wrote on the 31st of October, 2024. And all the activities that, or all the developments that followed are the ones that put us where we are today. You get it? Yes. So the committee is saying to you that Dr. Haas, before you wrote this letter, there must have been some information that you gathered, which make you to arrive at this conclusion that I am now at the point where I must write a letter to the minister, because maybe the information that I have with me is so overwhelming that I can no longer keep it to myself. Somebody has to know it. And the first person that came to your mind was the minister that you had to write to. And so now, Parliament then, after the decision that you requested must be made, decision has been made, then Parliament appoints a committee to investigate the circumstances surrounding the dissolution of this PKTT and the alleged corrupt activities. So I just want you to appreciate the motions that momentum after you wrote the letter. You get it? I do. And so now, members of conducting an investigation, they have invited you. And members of parliament say, in our engagement with you, we want to restrain ourselves. We don't want to be seen in a way that does not resonate with the decorum of this house. We don't want to be seen as if we are belligerent. You get it? We want to have a conversation with you and help us to give us information that made you to arrive at a decision like this. If there is anybody who gave you information, you say, this is the information that I gathered. There is a Soviet who helped me to compile this information. But I'm not in a position to publicly mention a name like that one. You get it? So maybe before you respond, because I'm not perfect, I may want to check with honorable members if what I said represents their views. So I'm going to rotate them one by one and hear whether what I'm conveying to you is what they want it to be. Can I start? Honorable Nod.
Yes, Chair, indeed, what you have said represents the views of the committee.
Do you have any addition that you want to make to the attention of Dr. De Haas?
Chair, she does not really help because she was given two options. That if there is an information that she believes is too confidential, that an arrangement can be done to allow her to give us an in-camera setting. You saying I'm not going to give names publicly, but I think she does not give whether or not she can be able to give us those names in an in-camera arrangement. Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say when I raised my hand, I was disturbed by Dr. De Haas, because apparently for her, Madlanga Commission takes precedent over us. It's been mentioned many times. Madlanga Commission that, Madlanga Commission that, which is unfortunate. Hence, we said in this committee, we are not accountable to Madlanga Commission. Madlanga Commission is a separate it's separate from what we are doing as parliamentarians. Parliamentarians here, there's accountability here. You know, whatever happens there is the president prerogative to have the Madlanga Commission established. Everyone, when I mean the executive accounts here, there's a separation of power. And I know that the doctor knows that. You know, I'm a bit traumatized about Madlanga Commission, every almost a sentence you made now. That those witnesses would perhaps go to Madlanga Commission. They are allowed to go there. But hence the chair is asking you whether are you willing to do it on camera for us to proceed with this investigation as parliamentarians we are doing to every witness who appeared before us. We are not undermining you. But remember, we are probing, we want to know the truth. You know, we are not a subsidiary to a Madlanga Commission. We are a stand-up committee, as an ad hoc committee here. We need to take this to Parliament, which is an ultimate in this country. We are lawmakers. And we heard you, you know, your statement is before us, you know, but hence we want to have a bite on it, to know the truth. There's no ulterior motives against you or anyone or any other witness here. We don't have a hidden agenda. We just want the truth. But if we can't now have the names, it's fine. You must just say that you are not willing. Perhaps we'll adjourn as a committee and take a decision. How are we going to go forward? You know, we do as a witness. But with due respect, there's nothing against you as a person. We just read your statement, and your statement speaks for itself. Thank you, Chair.
Do we still have any member from the MKP who wants to?
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. Chair, we've been partly covered by what Honorable Skosana has said. But Chair, what we have noted here is the highest level of arrogance of high note. And there is an attempt to reduce the credibility of this committee as if we're a subordinate of a certain commission of inquiry.
Chair, apologies, Honorable Mfalo. Chair, can you again talk to the witness to stop making gestures when members are submitting?
Yeah,
point.
Listen, let's allow Honorable Nomvalo to conclude. We will come back to you to make that point.
The first witness that appeared before this committee is General Nhlanhla. He mentioned the name of a witness before us in his affidavit under oath. And even when he was here, he elaborated on why he mentioned her name. The name was also mentioned by the Minister of Police, Minister Senzo Mkhulu, under oath, openly so. She comes here, she's not a police officer. She has no right to protect informants because it's only police officers with that right to protect informants. She's just an ordinary person with passion of having views on police work. We respect that. But she must not come here and undermine Parliament. This is Parliament, and this is a committee that has been tasked. We're not just doing a normal oversight responsibility here. We're doing an investigation. This is not a portfolio committee. It's an ad hoc committee with specific terms of reference. And at the center of those terms of reference is conducting an investigation on issues that are affecting SAPS. She comes here, she tells us about investigators, qualified investigators, who are going to investigate issues in the Madlanga Commission. As if here, by virtue of being members of parliament, we are not qualified to listen to what those investigators can listen to. So what I see here, Chair, is the highest level of arrogance and lack of cooperation. The witness cannot choose what she can tell us. It was going to be understandable if she was saying, Chair, I am not comfortable with disclosing names here on camera. Can we disclose them when cameras have been switched off? That will be understanding. Now, saying, ridiculing the credibility of this committee by saying no, because I'm still here to appear in the Madlanga Commission. What is that? Madlanga Commission is not bigger than Parliament. It's an executive decision through the President of South Africa. This committee, the ad hoc committee, is a decision of Parliament. So, Chair, can we not be undermined here, please? Can we not be undermined? There are three options that we have correctly put here. It's either she gives us names here. If she doesn't, off camera. And if she doesn't want to give us names at all, she must not adduce evidence with names which are not disclosed, which are not going to be disclosed. She must just keep quiet and not say that I was told by so-and-so. She must not even go there because we will probe her further. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Ngola.
No, Chair, I was saying I've noticed, which I think Orb Mate's noticed as well, and it continues unabated. The witness, every time a member is submitting, whatever the member is submitting, the witness is making unnecessary gestures. Can you plead with the witness to refrain from that conduct? It's not allowed. Thank you.
Okay, let's move to the DA, Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we invited Dr. De Haas here, knowing what her evidence would be, more or less. We've heard people refer to what she would talk about, and we know what her background is. We know that she's a researcher. We know that she's an anthropologist. We know that she's a sociologist, and that she has a certain protocol to which she must adhere. And she's told us about that protocol, that she has an ethical standard by which she is bound. If you're doing research as an academic, Chair, you rely on a network of, let's call them informers for want of a better word. As soon as you start naming those people publicly, you'll never have another word from them. She'll be unable to conduct her research. She'll be unable to do it. She'll be unable to make it's not even to any of the other witnesses, Chair.
Where did it go?
We had many witnesses.
She's a natural.
100% of the
This one's
hearsay. Nobody has laid any evidence before this committee. No one's produced any evidence. We've had a lot of information. Any one of us who thinks that we've heard evidence is deluded. So I don't see what the fuss is about this particular witness.
How was the?
Thank you, Chair.
He's writing it too. Writing it too.
Cameron. Honorable Matthews.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We aligned with you. I think it's just important that there should be a reminder to our witness that this is Parliament. We are Parliament of the people. The difference between the Commission and this ad hoc committee, Prof, is that whatever our findings are here and also what our recommendations are, it's binding. So partly your approach to us and your response to us, I agree that it has been a touch of arrogance there that you may as well pack up and go, and also mentioning the commission more times than is necessary, and their investigation, etc. And perhaps for the sake of progress, I think we must just get where there are no names that have been mentioned, because I might even tend to agree that it's not tremendously consequential to our investigation on the names that are not mentioned, and we might be going around in circles on something that might not be of grave consequences to the committee. So let's get that out of the way, and maybe our evidence leaders can work that out. But I do think that it also just set a precedence, Chair, that when we have witnesses here, that they just be conscious, even when we take their statements, if there's information that they feel that is going to jeopardize other people, that it's noted in their statement, and that we have an approach rather than us coming here and then we have to deal with, I can't mention names, etc. It does make our work a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I think we can move in that regard. That's our submission. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Source.
Chair, we have indulged the witness. We've tried to be fair. You took time to explain our position. We explained that
one is not going to work.
The witness would have an opportunity to share the names with us for our purposes of proving
You must go and find
patients in an closed session. We were fair.
I won't find content easy.
I was very
Marif, it's
disappointed by the response of the witness thereafter. And I take strong exception to hear Dr. Dahas say that if we don't want, she can leave. Now, it's wrong. It feels like Dr. Dahas is talking down on all of us. We are a legitimate structure. We are a legal structure. And Dr. Dahas has been invited because allegations has been made. We have granted a platform for her to have a right of reply to these allegations and clear it up. Instead of returning the courtesy, we are being spoken down on. And I also want Dr. Dahas to know that even though you were invited on this occasion, and you feel you have the option to decide whether you want to testify or not, Section 56 of our Constitution is the National Assembly, and by extension, ad hoc committees like ourselves, to summons you. And when we summons you, you have no option to opt out except for two exceptions, which I'm sure you know. So please do not come across as you are looking down at us and speak with such arrogance. You can just back up and go, that I take strong exception to. And I want you to be clear that we are not tuck shop somewhere. We are a legitimate legal institution with power. We are constitutionally empowered to do what we do. So I implore you to show the same courtesy, help us in our effort. If you refuse and you want to go, we will then use our power to summons you back here. If we feel that there is information that we want, oblige you to give to us. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable James.
Yeah, I think I'm covered by the former speakers. I actually don't believe that the people that Dr. Haas is protecting would add any value to what we're doing today. I think, if anything, we more want to know what prompted her, what prompted that writing of that letter, and sort of trying to persuade the minister to disband the PKTT. I think, if anything, that was the focus. It makes it very hard to even prompt her further. She said what she's wanted to say. She's not going to speak. She's not going to share names. And I think the fact that she's a senior citizen today makes it very difficult for me and where I come from and my upbringing. You know, she's obviously has a made up mind, and we're going to leave it at that. I think, if anything, here today, what she has revealed is the poor leadership within our minister. Because in his testimony, one of the things, the driving factors that led him into authoring that letter was Dr. Mary Haas. So it would have been interesting today for us to hear from her who are those people that was poking and prompting and the whys, but she's not able to tell us that. The focus today is her input towards the minister disbanding the PKTT. She's not willing to tell us, even off camera. She's made it clear. How do we go further? Thank you, Chair.
Let's see.
Chair, our colleague, Advocate Sigalala, just reminded me that we did caution in advance that calling Dr. De Haas would create this kind of problem, in inverted commas, because much of her evidence or the information that she's sharing with the committee is based on a network of information that she receives, much from third parties and other sources, and is not direct evidence. And what she has now mentioned, where she has refused to disclose the name, is just such an example. I would be inclined, like we did the other evening, to request for the informant or the person to be disclosed to us in confidence, in camera. I would request that, but I also do. One also has to have respect for her as an academic. There are certain fundamental tools of the trade, as it were, of a profession that academics use at university and other places of learning to bring knowledge to us is sometimes based on information that they ethically cannot disclose. So I'm sympathetic to that kind of approach also, Chair. But I don't have a definitive answer other than to request that we go in camera, go into and for her to disclose the name. And I think Honourable Member Matthys is perhaps right to say, well, it could be much ado about nothing. When we have a name, it may not add much, if anything, to our further deliberations. But we won't know that until we hear from Dr. Das. I think also the reference to Matlanga is, I think we need to also bear in mind that I think what Dr. Das, and she can speak for herself, is that because Matlanga is a team of investigators, it's quite possible that they could find who the person is through their reach and their investigations which will absolve Dr. Haas from taking that moral responsibility of disclosing the name. We don't have that luxury, unfortunately, Chair.
I'm not taking further hands, honorable members, because I want us to break. I hear the points that honorable members are making here. The point of academic networks, there is nobody who can ignore it. It would have been very good if you say it yourself, Prof. To say, I'm a person who does research, and in this field, there are certain codes that we subscribe to. Whatever method that you use, you need to get consent. And that is why there are so many other research techniques that a person can use, because you may not want to reveal the identity of the sources that help you in your research. But it's when we ask you to say, are you saying that even in camera, if we were going to request you to disclose the sources, you say not even in camera, and then it ends there? You would have assisted us if you say, look here, Chairperson, this is the kind of the work that I do. And I have promised the networks that I consulted that this information remains confidential between us. And I may not be able to disclose it to anybody because it may put your lives in danger. Or even yourself, your life can also be in danger. That is acceptable. And we have always said it here that we are reasonable human beings. And even the application and administration of the law is done in a reasonable manner. Because the law is made to serve human beings. It's not meant to strangulate. And I think that is a fair point, but you should have said it yourself here. It must not be Honorable Breitenbach or Honorable Mattheys or the SC speaking for you. It must be said by you, and we will reasonably take it. But secondly, I want to restate it here that it is our utmost intention, and this is what we want to do manifestly here as the committee, that we want to be manifestly seen out there respecting you as a senior citizen of this country. And that one we are unflinching about. We want to show you our utmost respect. And we also want you to feel the same warmth and comfort that you feel at your home. You must feel it here. When you have a conversation with us, you must be having a conversation with your children or with your grandchildren. You must be seen guiding them. You must be seen exposing them to the things that ordinarily they may not know in their lives. That is the kind of the atmosphere that must pervade our engagements here, and that is an atmosphere that will help us to move forward. So there must never be at any stage where you feel irritated by honorable members, where you feel offended. They are doing their work. They want to probe the allegations that have been made. And like I've said here, nobody has said it here. It was said by me as the chair that you have been a trigger that put in motion a series of events that at the ultimate was a letter that was written by the minister. And some of the words that are used in your letter are the words that were used in the letter the minister wrote to the police commissioner. You see? Not all of them. I saw one word immediately. Is one word that has featured very prominently in these hearings. It's used in the letter which you wrote in October and the letter which was written by the minister on the 31st of December. So that is why it's very, very critical, Dr. Haas, that, and look, where I'm sitting, I'm not convinced that we have reached a stage where we will say no, or either of us will say you take it or you leave it. We haven't reached that stage. And we can't even reach that stage with a person of your quality, a senior citizen, an accomplished academic. Sitting here, we can't reach a stage where we say, look, you either take it or you leave it. We can't do those things. No. And I will emphasize it. It must never be the technicality of the statement that we make. It must be about the techniques of our arguments. What we want to see being foregrounded here is the wisdom that makes this country to move forward. That's exactly what we want to see. So, honorable members, before we break, let me get the commitment of Dr. De Haas that when we come back, we are going to move forward and she will try her best to cooperate with the committee and give the answers to the best of her ability. Dr. De Haas.
Thank you. I just need to explain a few things, and I'm really sorry if it seemed arrogant, but the point is I thought that I'd explain my ethical position. And I mean, among other things, I mean, I am still a registered social worker. I mean, I could be, and not that it would really matter, but I mean, strictly speaking, it would be the end of a profession if I had betrayed someone's confidence, put it that way. But what I'm a bit puzzled, and I really don't take exception to any of the criticisms, I'm used to it. This is what academic conferences are about. In fact, they get even more insulting. And this is a very staid, I appreciate the comments. I'm sorry if it was seen as arrogance. It was really my irritation for not understanding that I cannot betray people's confidence. Perhaps I didn't explain it well enough. Okay, but I'm not sure what all this thing about names is, because I mean, it came up in connection with my contact now with the minister. And that is a police member whose name I could not reveal because it would endanger, if not his life, his job. Okay. But most of what I've written here is already on record with Parliament. I'm referring to my earlier attempts 4 years ago to different committees to say there's a problem with crime intelligence. Can you get the ministers in, especially with the police? I mean, when I read this letter to the minister, I thought, well, he'll never respond. I copy it to Parliament. I never even got a formal acknowledgement from the committee. I sent it as a formal complaint. So what I'm saying is I'm delighted that Parliament is now in a state where it is actually trying to to address these issues. And my reference to the Madlanga Commission, I see as a completely separate issue, because all I'm saying is they actually have a luxury you don't have. They've got forensic investigators. So, I mean, the issues I brought up are almost all on record. I don't know what names you're talking about. I mentioned the name of a policeman. Now, I did that. And I was just going to focus on the whole thing about the task team. I was asked, when I was asked to give evidence, I was asked to comment about my contact with the minister, which I've done fully. And that is how it came up that there was one person who gave me information I needed to pass on. And it's neither here nor there, because it's got nothing to do with that I'd written personally before, because the information I send to Parliament, I send it to the police. I send it to Parliament because the police don't respond. I am saying, this is what people are telling me.
Yeah, Prof.
Can you investigate?
Doctor,
that's my position.
Yeah, Dr. De Haas, respectfully, so let's do this. When we come back, then during the proceedings where you are required to mention your source, you can say, this one I can mention because he's a public office bearer. It's public knowledge.
Mm.
Number two, chairperson, here, this information is still raw and may be a subject of investigation. I may not be able to say it because I don't know the extent to which it can jeopardize the investigations. That is fair. You get it?
Yes.
If you have been informed by somebody and the information is so sensitive that you can't be excited about it, you say, look, this is a raw information. I can't be able to mention it here because it may be under investigation, or now investigations are underway as we speak. Number three, this one is part of my field of research. This is where the information was thrown. And I have made a commitment to the participants in my research that this stays confidential. I think everybody knows it. That, like I explained, that you can use different assembly methods in a research, or you can identify your participants. But you can't go out. Like now, if somebody does a research about the PKTT, it's a very, very sensitive terrain. And then you go there, you meet people, they give you information, you come and produce a document. But you can't mention where you got those things because it's unethical, it's unprofessional within the academic circles. So we will want you to say those things where you feel you have comfort to give us the names. And here I'm uncomfortable. I may not give us those names for the following. You know, I think how the members understood it is when you just say it bluntly without any explanation or substantiation to say the reason why, even if we go in camera, I can't give you the information is for the following reasons. You get it? I mean, if I have to remind you, at some point you even said, I can exercise my right to silence. And for sure, I assume that is what could have offended the members. You could, look, at your age, you could have gathered some euphemism to say it in such a way that your juniors, they keep on following you without any qualms. Is it very clear? Is it clear to you?
Even so.
Did you hear me?
I didn't hear the last sentence you said.
Yeah, no, I'm saying at your age.
Yeah.
you could always find better ways. Older persons in society, they always have this delicate ways to process fragile and sensitive matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you do that?
Well, my problem is that I'm still very much in academic circles and I haven't really changed very much over the ages. So maybe that's the problem I'm having. But I mean, I do want to distinguish, though, between what I think Parliament can do, and I'm very happy it's doing. And I really want to emphasize I was not going to give evidence about intelligence because it is all allegations. I have personally spoken to operatives, so some of it is firsthand to me.
Yeah.
But everything else is on record.
Yeah, no, but to conclude on this point before we break, you and I are now making a commitment in these proceedings that when we come back, we are going to see the delicate ways that you use to process fragile and sensitive matters. That is the commitment we are getting from you. Thank you so much.
So where I put it, I guess.
Yeah. Honorable members, it's almost 14 hours now. May we please break and come back at 15 hours. It's almost 14 hours now. You'll come back at 15 hours. No, 15 hours. I want you to refresh. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I really thought I'd explained it, but I explained it.
You see, you,
Ah,
2 hours.